Okay, so in today's video, I want to talk about victim mentality. And the reason why I want to talk about this is because it seems to me that in the last year, right, and as I'm recording this, it's December 16th of 2022. But in this last year, I've noticed a big increase in the amount of conversations online that seem to exist around oppression and more or less limiting factors of why people are not able to proceed in the directions that they want of life. So I wanted to put this video together and share some of my thoughts as I'm continuing to develop myself and launch a couple of different ventures that you will hopefully see, and I'll put some links here and whatnot. And a big piece I think that bothers me with this whole victim mentality is that it takes the responsibility and puts it primarily on an external factor. And in my opinion, that makes sense. I think the brain, from the limited research that I've done around neuroscience, the brain is really interested in being as efficient as possible with its energy consumption. So if you think about the fact that you might have a question about something, or you may not know something, your brain's going to want to understand it if you're interested in it, that is, and it's going to start to look for the answers. Now, it's a good and bad thing that the brain is very quick to find things and make sense of it. But the bad part is that there are certain things that you can't just immediately, once your brain decides that makes sense to me, I will now decide that that is the truth. If you do this, you're really going to limit your ability to understand the deeper truth of what actually is happening. So, and I don't want to speak too much in this kind of mysterious way, but it is something that I think takes a tremendous amount of time to think and consider whether or not what you are telling yourself is right, or the reason or answer to whatever problem it is that you face. If you ask yourself, is that really true? Then you allow yourself to explore more possibilities. And why this is important, I believe, is because you might uncover other truths that will then somehow connect into a different area of your experiences in your past or your knowledge. Not to mention that the specific thing that you're looking to find the answer to, you can actually get closer to the truth if you put more energy and time into it. Now, of course, there's this concept of ignorance is bliss. And I will say that it's probably easier to live your life from the immediate gratification standpoint. It is easier to live your life by just settling on what you find to be the first thing that makes sense, and that's the truth. So, tying it back into this conversation around victim mentality, I think that it makes sense to me why there's so many individuals and groups of people that believe there's some sort of evil, malicious intent through groups, governments that are trying to hold them back or prevent them from generating wealth or prevent them from excelling in their professions or whatever the case is, right? You can think about relationships. A lot of times people blame the other for the reason why the relationship failed. Or, I see this very large conversation between men and women. Men are looking at women and saying women are bad, women are this, women are that, women are doing the same in the other direction. And to me, I think it used to bother me some years ago. Um, and I used to be on that side of just, it makes sense this way. And I get it. And that's why I'm angry about things. But I don't think that that was the truth because I was still seeking to understand more. And one thing that I believe is if you know the truth, you really don't feel anger and you don't feel helpless. You know, I think that if you find out what the truth actually is for anything and you understand that truth, you feel at ease, you feel peaceful. and you can accept those terms, then you feel empowered because you understand where you are and where the world is in relation to you in that moment, which gives you a clear state of mind in which you can then make better decisions to move forward into the future by making good decisions in the present moment. And a lot of individuals seem to not grasp that concept. So they get stuck. They get stuck in the anger, they get stuck in the frustration, they get stuck in that victim world mindset that the only way for their life to change or their experience to change is if other people change for them. And again, I understand that. I think there are situations where it would be so much easier if other people would conform or change to whatever it is I am looking to achieve or whatever is going to make me feel like I'm getting what I want out of life. But I've realized that living in that mentality is very, very debilitating. It puts me in this position of helplessness, and it makes the battle of change way more complicated and much larger, to be honest, versus me deciding this is the way it is out here. I don't control these people. Everybody outside of me is living in a way that they feel makes sense for them or whatever. I don't know what they're going through. I'm not them. By me realizing and accepting that that's the truth for that part, now anytime I face adversity, as long as I'm staying present to the fact that nothing is happening necessarily to me because it's against me or their intention is focusing on I want to keep him down. That is very rarely the case in my 33 years of life experience. It is very rare that I come across any very apparent situation where someone is intentionally trying to keep me down. So by me then adopting this mentality of I'm responsible for my reactions, my responses, my decisions, in the truest form, that's the truth. Because nobody is really controlling us. There is definitely a level of influence that can be seen as mind control, but I don't think that is more powerful than our own ability to manage our lives in the way that we decide. And I think that's honestly one of the most freeing experiences and pieces of knowledges that I've had the privilege of growing through over the last 10 years or so is just that realization that my life can be what I want it to be. It's going to take work from my end, though. And that work is very, very robust. It looks in the form of inner work, outer work, whatever the case may be for the specific goal. And I think that a lot of individuals, again, are just not really understanding that that's part of the requirement of getting the life that you want is that you have to be living a life that you're deciding and you're accepting the responsibility. You're holding yourself accountable for all of the things that are going on, even the bad things. There's going to obviously be a lot of things that are out of our control, but the one thing that is in our control when we're faced with something that's against us or out of our control is we have that decision that we get to choose again. So that's where I think that whole positive mindset attitude comes from, which is interesting again to talk about this last year and in the last couple of years, to be honest. There's been a lot of attack on this self-help world, critical thinking, and it seems that there's this way of thinking that some individuals align with around this idea that by being hyper positive for your own self benefit is toxic. This is the same thing that goes with this toxic masculinity, which of course there's no doubt toxic masculinity that exists out there. But I really do think that a lot of individuals are again, taking that short route to say that's what this is. So the labels are getting thrown around on all these things that they haven't really processed to be able to understand. Is this actual toxic masculinity? Or does it just appear to be at first glance? My brain, being this hyper efficient organ that's interested only in getting over with the thought, has decided that it is, or this person is. Immediately, it's easier to just say that's what it is. And I'm just going to stop there. This world of instant gratification has kind of conditioned individuals to, unfortunately, not go into this level of thinking. And that's fine, I guess. It's just the byproduct of technology and this advancement of the internet that's happened over the last 20 years that has put a lot of strain on our brain, to be honest, about I think the amount of information that's being pushed around is amazing, but it's also got the the double-edged sword of every situation that we make improvements through technology. That's probably not innately something that was thought of to be a negative thing to make people's attention span less, but it just happened to be a byproduct that wasn't thought about at the time because the focus was probably on delivering content faster and being able to make things quicker and easier. Because the idea is if you can make things quicker through technology, you can get time back to then go do something else, like spend time with your family, go for walks, go on adventures, things of that nature. But unfortunately, when we're given time back, if you don't have some sort of direction for your own life, you're probably going to fill that space with more of whatever it is you're already doing. And now you're just overloading your brain with information, content. So I think that it's really important that we understand a lot of these levels of why we're why we are where we are today and why individuals have this fast approach to checking off someone as being canceled or this person's a racist or this person's a bigot. Look, from a neuroscience perspective, it makes sense. The brain's just doing what it's supposed to be doing. Now, the next level is if you want to be an evolved human, in my opinion, you're going to have to pay attention to at what points are you making these quick assumptions, and do you have the credibility to make an assessment so quickly? Most people, I think, make assessments on specific subjects faster than they should because they haven't really put in enough effort and energy to understand whatever they're making the assessment on. So again, anything you do, let's say you develop your brain around emotional responses and relationships at work. If you put a lot of time into that, you're going to understand how to see trends. You're going to see some studies from other peers, and you're going to see a lot of information if you're studying this whole subject here, which then gives you the credibility, it gives you more or less the pass to make assessments quickly around these specific scenarios that you've spent time to learn about. But if you're not doing the work leading up to it, your brain's going into the default mode where it's just speculating immediately, finding something that makes sense. It's rationalizing it in the brain, and confirmation bias. That's what makes sense. So we're going to move on, and we're going to take action from that perspective, which I think that's a really dangerous place to be. Is it's almost like you're taking rash actions. That's toxic, in my opinion. If you're just going around reacting to everything because you think you understand it because you spent 20 minutes on YouTube watching shorts, but you watched 50 different shorts in 20 minutes, and all of the ones that you got because of the algorithm, the way it works, gave you confirmation bias that this situation is this way because of this, right? So I love when every time I see a post now about narcissism and all of this stuff, I think it's so ridiculous how much that word's getting thrown around because the actual amount of narcissists is probably a lot lower than people realize. But it seems to be a cop out that it's like every piece that fits this is a narcissist. And it's a complex diagnosis to become considered a narcissist. And everyone's got some tendencies to an extent, right? The spectrum for all these mental related subjects in life that I think are not to be discounted. But yeah, I think going back to this whole video's focus on cancel culture this last year, it's something that I want to spread more awareness coming into the rest of my life is around the the beauty and the benefit of being more critical with the way you think about things, and also allowing yourself to not get so upset. I think if I could give like a suggestion to individuals is try to challenge yourself to complain less. Try to challenge yourself to also see the other side of a lot of these things that you really may think you know in depth, but there's always more to learn. I think that's important to consider that you may not know all there is to know about whatever it is you're trying to, advocate for or fight against. And if you could put yourself in the shoes of the enemy and actually be there presently, just as an exercise to see, can I try to understand what they're thinking and feel what they're thinking? It'll bring you, I think, closer to the truth of what's actually happening here. Which in the end, if your goal is to influence people and help them maybe think more like you, or help them to stop doing what you see as being a destructive thing, you're going to have to influence them through relatability. It's super important to be relatable to someone who's doesn't think like you. Um, you know, and of course, don't use this in a manipulative way that's malicious. But who am I to say what you can and can't do? People probably will learn and catch on to this way of communicating. And I think it's existed for a long time. I know when I first started living in San Francisco, there was tons of this manipulation guised as, empathy and all the good things that you could think about. You have to go through that and learn, and then feel like you can actually put in places and procedures for yourself to not be in the situation where you're getting manipulated for the wrong reasons. So, anyways, this is a bit of a tangent that's kind of all over the place, but more or less, I want to start making these um, videos for the dialogue, for us to just talk about, like, how can we actually make some progress that we want to see in this world. And not as a whole. I'm not saying that we need to come together as this big group and change the whole world and make everyone think like us. I really don't think that idea of people all being the same way of thinking is healthy. I don't think it makes sense in nature in general. Um, we need the adversity, we need the complications. It's, I think, order and balance of the universe, to be honest. But that's just my own opinion. So I think that a video like this hopefully will spark some interesting thoughts. If you've got comments that you want to respond to specifically about anything that I've said, please, by all means, throw the comments in there. It's going to help me to be transparent, it's going to help me build this YouTube channel. It's going to help me from the engagement perspective. It's going to help me reach more individuals. Um, so yeah, engage, talk to me, tell me why I'm wrong, tell me why you think I'm right. Tell me all the things. Tell me if you want me to talk about something else. But you'll start to see as I put more videos that the way that I think and the way that I process stuff is more or less in this line of thinking, where I kind of wait in the middle before I make a decision on which is a value of mine. And I don't want to be giving value to things that I just learned about and I think, oh, that sounds awesome, until I've spent enough time to really understand, is that awesome though? I think that's going to make your life easier if you can live this way. Because my life has definitely been pretty good in the last 10, 12 years. And as some context, at 18 years old, moved out of my parents' house. I didn't go to college because it didn't really work for me. I didn't like the schooling system. And so I just had to work all these random jobs, started reading books, started surrounding myself with a couple individuals that were in the same mentality of, taking the reins on their own life. And within 12, 13 years, I have now developed myself into this professional that I'm happy to be. And I think that there's definitely lots more growth for me. Um, I'm financially independent. I have been since I left home. This last year, I left the United States to travel around Europe, currently in Croatia, and just living my life as best as I can and feeling like I've got something to give back to people. So that's where I'm at. Definitely not a big fan of victim mentality. I'll say that again at the end. So yeah, like this video, comment on it. That's probably most request, my most prioritized request right now is to get some comments so I can actually have a conversation or dialogue with some of you. But liking it's nice too, sharing it, subscribing to my page, obviously. Any of that stuff will be awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. If you've watched this video in full, if anything has been added to your life, I feel like I've been a success with this video. If not, well, at least you weren't on TikTok. See you later.